Hello. 2025 was a pretty big year for Old School Runescape, to say the least. In September, 257,000 players were all online at the same time. The concurrent player count record just kept breaking, which is a wild thing to think about. You wouldn't think that a 12-year-old re-release of a 20-year-old MMORPG would be reaching peak player counts. That's just a weird thing. That's not normal. But here we are. So I guess it is normal, we decided. With the record breaking in mind, I've been working on a big project, the 5-year anniversary of why people play RuneScape in 2020, which was my college senior project video. A lot of people watched it, many more than my classroom. But to make that video, I've been looking at why people are playing RuneScape from every possible angle. And coincidentally, during this record-breaking era, it just so happens that a huge chunk of World of Warcraft creators glanced over at Old School RuneScape and decided to try it in front of everyone, every day, for months. Some of these WoW streamers lasted a couple days, some a couple months. Some are still playing right now as we speak. You could probably click Twitch and go to RuneScape and see WoW people. They fell for it. Oldest trick in the book. Welcome to RuneScape. So the whole WoW migration thing, it's not something I can just ignore. I had to acknowledge this. It played a role, a pretty big role, I would say, in the huge amount of players that we saw just try the game for the first time. So as I'm trying to gather my thoughts, what to talk about when it comes to the WoW people trying Old School, I was like, what can I observe here? What common trends can I see? Going back, looking at VODs and clips. But then I stopped and I thought, instead of trying to speculate here of why they played, why they tried, why they stayed, why don't I just ask them? This last week, I sat down with 8 WoW creators, all who tried Old School RuneScape, some of them for a couple months, some of them kind of taking a step back, and others who are still going strong as we speak. I wanted to ask these guys who had a long history of playing World of Warcraft both as a creator and before, what they thought of Old School, why they came over to try, what they thought of WoW after experiencing Old School, what they plan on doing going forward. There was just a lot that I wanted to ask, and I wanted to make sure that I got all the context I could in order to understand their perspective, because I played World of Warcraft, but I didn't play World of Warcraft, so to speak. So I wanted to make sure that I got as many details as I could from these guys. A few months ago, I had started a podcast pretty much, and I'm gonna use this as an opportunity to pretty much reboot/restart it. I originally planned on having all of the conversations in one long mega video, but I figured that would kind of be annoying for everyone, considering there is 9 hours of conversation here. So I'm just going to organize it like a podcast episode format thing with each creator. I'm going to put one up per day. They're already done. They're already scheduled to be posted. Just, giving people a day to kind of watch one and then wait for the next. They're all going to be up. I'm also going to have them all posted up on streaming platforms, so you can access the links in the description if you'd rather just audio only, Spotify on your phone, whatever. That's an option too. And just a few things before we get started. I didn't have my camera on for any of these, and I didn't make anyone else put their camera on for these because I've been getting over bronchitis after a month and a half. So I'm still muting my mic and coughing, and I was like, that would suck to have on camera. Maybe I don't do that. And a lot of these guys who I interviewed just got done streaming after 8 to 10 hours, just talking to people. So I wasn't going to make them keep their camera on and their lights on after a long day. I wasn't going to do that to them. So I figured it would just be easy to just hop in a Discord call with everyone, talk, and just not worry about what we looked like. I'll just put some background footage on and, just audio. Just don't put this on your main monitor. Don't be weird. This initially wasn't formatted to be a podcast, but as I started asking these questions I wrote down to everybody, the discussions kind of went everywhere and kind of became a podcast kind of unintentionally. You'll notice I'm asking a lot of the same questions, but the conversations definitely go in a ton of different directions. So, it's not going to be the same interview over and over again. You'll see what I'm talking about. But without further ado, welcome to the miniseries, the podcast miniseries, WoW to Old School. Our first creator is actually, believe it or not, pretty early into their streaming career. He was very well known during the OnlyFans saga. You probably saw him at some IRL meetings if you were keeping up with that stuff. Being a menace in undead meetings sometimes, causing a ruckus. He kind of played a villain here and there. Very, very controversial for the unemployed. Actually, an extremely nice guy. I sat down with him a lot in Austin during the OTK event. Great guy. I'm talking about Sardaco. He's been killing it recently. He's probably one of the fastest progressing accounts I've ever seen as a new player. He's been pumping out some high effort green screen video essays, kind of going through his progress, kind of like how I did with the World of Warcraft series. He's kind of taken that format and put an old school spin on it. So it's been awesome watching him kind of experience the game and telling the story about it. He's been doing a great job with that. Definitely check those out. But yeah, enjoy this discussion with Sardaco. Just as a little background, how long have you been playing World of Warcraft?
I've been playing World of Warcraft since day one vanilla launch, waiting outside at GameStop at midnight to get the packaging.
Oh my God. So wait, so if you were doing that, does that mean you were playing like Warcraft 3 and stuff like that, like before the launch of it? Like you knew about the WoW world?
I did play Warcraft 3 campaign, and knew a little bit about World of Warcraft was coming out because I was an MMO player. I was huge in Star Wars Galaxies, and I did play original classic RuneScape when I was in middle school for about 2 months.
That's awesome. Like classic, like pre RuneScape 2, like the
pre RuneScape 2 when you used to like stake duel. I used to stake duels in Lumbridge.
Yeah.
And you would enter into the wilderness in level 1 Varrock, and then you got locked into like 2 or 3 combat animations when you were fighting someone in the wilderness, and you would try to like team up with people to like because it was all multi PK back then, and you would like try to do these pures, and you would try to find teammates to just like gank people.
Yeah,
that was mainly what we did back then.
Yeah, dude, I've heard some great RuneScape Classic stories about like waiting to talk to the banker because you can only have one person talking at a time to NPCs.
The quests were super fun with no quest helper. You had to look up
yeah, with no quest helper.
The craziest ways to figure out how to do stuff.
Yeah. Well, sick, dude. So given the mass migration at some point, what is your current opinion of the World of Warcraft world in general right now, like collectively, not just like the classic community or just retail, but like just looking over in the direction of World of Warcraft and that community? Like, what is your thoughts in general about it right now?
Yeah, my thoughts about just World of Warcraft in general is I think retail is in a good spot. People just have accepted what it is. It's a seasonal Mythic Plus raiding simulator. And you go and play it until you get your stuff or you get cutting edge, and then you kind of wait for new content to come out, and that's fine for what it is. I think it does a really good job at that. Mm-hmm. And in the classic WoW space, I would consider WoW 2 separate games, classic and then retail. In the classic WoW space, I think that it needs new content. It's in a place where 2012 RuneScape was, where people were wanting them to bring it back and them to develop new content for the old game because they just weren't very accepting of RuneScape 3 when it came out. And that's exactly what the classic community is wanting now, is what Jagex has done with Old School RuneScape, which is developing new content for the old game.
Right. So like the classic plus sort of thing.
Exactly.
Okay, so I actually didn't have this written down, but I love asking this because I'm not familiar enough with WoW to kind of like completely grasp it. But like when you're thinking, now that you've played Old School RuneScape and you've seen like, RuneScape Plus, or like Old School Plus kind of parallel, like what do you see as like your, I guess, expected Classic Plus? Like what would you want it to be that differs from like a Season of Discovery or just updating the main game? Like how would you propose Classic Plus operate?
Well, I do think about this particular thing all the time. Like, how do you make Classic Plus as great as Old School RuneScape is, and its current state and everything? And it is very tough. And the developers face problems that Old School RuneScape doesn't face, which is the Trinity system. in World of Warcraft, which is tank, healer, DPS.
Yeah.
Which automatically makes it so all content in the game pretty much has to be at least 3-man.
Right.
Whereas in RuneScape, you can do a lot of content in the game solo. And then you're also facing balancing issues, whereas everybody in RuneScape is one class. We're all the same class.
Yeah.
Whereas everyone in WoW is 8 different classes in Classic and even more so in retail. So developers face different challenges that Jagex doesn't face with Old School RuneScape. And some of my favorite things in RuneScape are the ability to scale difficulty in raids like TOA, choose your own difficulty. Higher difficulty equals higher chance of getting loot. And then loot scarcity is a big part of what makes RuneScape great, in my opinion, because it's very hard to obtain the items. And there's no raid lockouts, so you can spam the bosses and the raids as much as you want. And I really like these types of things. Now, what can Classic do to, try and compete with that? They can make the journey longer, essentially, and make it take longer to get to 60 by adding more content into the game to make the journey longer. Another issue that they struggle with is going to be in RuneScape. If you want to make it harder for yourself, you could do something like what Rendy's doing, and you could go do in-game or mid-game, in-game stuff on a level 3, because you can actually hit the bosses, where you can't hit the bosses in World of Warcraft on a level 3.
Yeah.
And imagine being able to do Molten Core on level 3s. If you could somehow figure out a way to kite well enough on a hunter to get it done, those type of things. You can't even zone into Molten Core because you need an attunement to even get in. It's tough. These types of challenges are things that, like I say, RuneScape doesn't face. But I would want WoW to be as much like Old School RuneScape as possible, without obviously the challenges that they face. And that to me is a developing nightmare that I don't even know how to tackle.
Yeah. I would have no idea how to approach that. Like you said, I never really thought about that. You can't even touch the boss if you're not within combat level of it. If it's a skull on your screen, essentially, you're just dead. There's nothing you could do. So it definitely kind of blocks people from even attempting challenges like that.
Exactly.
And I remember I saw some guy, he was not doing combat in WoW and just kind of seeing how far he could level up by just wandering through the areas, just exploring. And
exploration experience.
Yeah, just exploration experience. And it was capped very fast. He couldn't really progress it too much just because, the way the game is set up. It's it was a really cool challenge, but the game itself and the way it's designed, it kind of limits to what your creativity can be. It's that sandbox versus theme park game sort of thing. But that's a tough topic to approach.
That's the structure, the bones, the framework for Old School RuneScape allows infinite amounts of creativity, like you with your house, your house video where you're trying to make the coolest house, or Settled, who's locking himself to a zone, or the Chunk Man, the Tile Man, the No Hit series. Things like these are the freedom of expression in RuneScape is unlimited, versus I feel like WoW doesn't have the framework to offer unlimited creativity. It's more linear. It's on rails, essentially. And it basically strangles the content creators when they've done everything.
Yeah, I've noticed that. It's pretty rough. It's tough bringing. I've noticed that when going to World of Warcraft to make a video, I can't have the same mindset about how to approach the game that I have in Old School. I have to essentially write a story about the ride I went on instead of how I created my own ride, sort of thing.
Yes.
Only so much you can do. That's a 2-hour conversation of Classic Plus. You could go all day with that stuff. So I won't keep us there. But I guess moving forward to you joining the Old School world, what was your initial reason for creating an account and logging in, starting Tutorial Island on Old School for the first time?
What brought me over is I saw Guzu, Savix, and Shobek playing RuneScape, and it wasn't that brought me over. It was that they didn't stop.
Yeah,
I like to look at patterns. When people leave the WoW section, they leave for a few days at a time and they come back, and that's how I know that whatever game that they were playing, it wasn't that great.
Right.
And so when Guzu had been playing for a month straight, Savix played for 2 weeks, and it didn't look like he was planning on quitting. I started getting intrigued.
Yeah.
Shobek was boasting about it after a week. And at that point, I was in Frontier and we were doing the world first KT no world buffs challenge. And this is a player made challenge, which, you do player made challenges when you kind of run out of things to do in the game. And I was like, am I going to miss out on this really cool experience with a lot of WoW players that are swapping over? And I tried it one day on my stream and I had a terrible attitude this day. I was like going into it thinking I was going to hate it.
Mm-hmm.
And after the first day, I was like, this is a great game. And each day I played it after that, I liked it more.
Yeah.
And from there, the hype just kind of started to build. And I was enjoying every second of playing RuneScape. And the scariest thing I ever did in my streaming career was I was pacing back and forth in my room. And I was like, am I about to send a message to Ampi, the guild leader of Frontier, that I'm not logging into the game tomorrow? I'm going full-time RuneScape. And
yeah, dude. How early was that into the RuneScape journey that you
3 to 5 days in?
No way. Are you serious?
I got to the point where I didn't even want to play WoW anymore.
Yeah.
This whole new world was awaiting me, and I was having so much fun playing RuneScape. I just didn't want to go back and play something I had already done 20, 30 times. I've leveled a character in Classic WoW, maybe more.
Right.
I just messaged one of my mods and I was like, hey, I think I'm about to quit, Old School RuneScape. This is my mod that's been with me for 2 years. And he was like, I think it's a good decision. Like, you're not just a WoW player. People like you as a streamer. They'll watch you play anything. And I went ahead and sent it. And I to this day, that's the scariest thing I've done on streaming. And if I hadn't have done that, I can't even, I've had so much success playing RuneScape that it scares me to think about that if I didn't do that now. Yeah,
that giant leap of faith is so terrifying, but you got the good ending. You landed perfectly. It was good. That's awesome.
Exactly.
Kind of rewinding a little bit, because I'm really curious about this, because I loved going back and kind of finding all of the WoW streamers like pre-day one, like the stream before they started, and seeing like if I could find any conversations they were having with their chat about potentially trying Old School. I want to see, do you remember like what your blind impression, like before you'd ever logged in, like what you thought about Old School RuneScape as a game? What were you thinking it was going to be like? What you have heard before? Just any impression that it made on you secondhand. Like, do you remember what the game kind of looked like in your eyes before you had tried it?
Yeah, to me, I thought it was a point and click kids game that had no difficulty. And for the most part, I thought I had seen what the game was when I was 12 years old for the 2 months that I played it.
Yeah.
So I had no second thoughts or any research or even any interest in the game, because I was a typical like WoW player who was judging a book by its cover.
Right.
And RuneScape has a terrible cover.
It does. It absolutely does. Yeah.
But it's one of the best. It's one of the best books that I've ever read. But I should not have judged it. I should not have judged it by its cover.
Yeah, I've always tried to emphasize the graphics versus enjoyability. Like, isn't even a true argument anymore in the world of like Unreal Engine 5 and all these Steam games you see coming out, like borrowing assets and everything. It's like, yeah, they can look super pretty with RTX lighting and everything, but
yeah, ray trace this, ray trace that.
It's ray tracing, yeah, dude. Yeah, doesn't.
I feel like we've been sold on graphics for so long in the MMO sphere that we're not being sold by that anymore,
right?
Because it never pans out.
Yeah, it doesn't. It never does. There's like that. What Ashes of Creation was that big one that supposed to be like. I mean, I don't even acknowledge the word WoW killer anymore, but like that was the meme about it. It was supposed to take over the MMO stuff because of its graphics and all of its systems, and it just didn't do anything.
I don't even think that game's out yet.
Yeah, it's not even out. Like the hype behind it was just destroyed, and the graphics were never a selling point to MMO players. I don't think like it really didn't do much. And I remember seeing a lot of those guys that were hyping that game up. I actually have a clip of somebody who was reacting to one of my videos who paused on a frame of old school characters, like old school RuneScape characters, and he said something like, I cannot imagine paying real money for a character that looks like that, like to play a membership with a character that looks like that. And it just embodied like what I think a lot of people see this game as before they try it.
Yep.
It's really hard to look at this game and think, wow, that's going to be great when I play that, when I click the ground to move. It's just sort of like go like it's tough. But
well, we have a joke in WoW where we make fun of clickers.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, the clickers.
So the idea of clicking the entire game makes you think that the entire game is a joke for some reason, and you don't realize that it's actually harder than anything you can do in World of Warcraft using keybind.
Yeah. And then you're at the point now, you've got to be using your F keys, right? Like on old school.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's like now you get far enough into old school. Now there's also the clicker joke again. Like people still make fun of clicking over here, like because of how in depth the systems are. It's like you are actually hindering yourself if you're not using your keybinds and stuff.
Yeah, you have to use keybinds on everything that the game allows you to do. And what makes RuneScape hard is that it limits you on what you can keybind.
Right. The F keys play a different role entirely. I guess to rewind again, I know we keep going on tangents. That's my bad. Do you remember, you had touched on it just for a second, but do you remember like days 1 through 7? Like your first impressions, like you said that you literally called a guild leader to tell them like you're not logging in anymore. What were the things you were thinking about that like intrigued you so much that you're like, I have to jump in? Like audience growth aside, like, pretend Twitch isn't much of a factor. If you're just looking at the game itself of like what drew you in that first week, what stood out to you the most?
I think that in the very first week, if I can remember all the things I was talking about in that first week video, number one, you don't care about the graphics anymore after a day of playing. You start to get used to it.
Yeah.
But how much content that there is in this game. I mean, if you played 12 hours in WoW in your first day, you'd probably make it to like level 15 or like level, at least, pretty deep into the game. Whereas like in RuneScape, you don't make a ton of progress in the grand scheme of things in one day of playing the game. And that to me just showed how much more content RuneScape had than what WoW has to offer in number of hours that you can play this game. And that's kind of what I started really realizing in the first week. And then that the game does actually have challenges. Like I started on hardcore and I died pretty early on to the tree spirit because I didn't know how to safe spot.
Oh, like the Lost City's tree spirit?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so classic.
Yeah, just seeing the difficulty and the amount of what there is to do in the game really intrigued me.
Yeah. Do you remember if there was a certain part that you really gravitated towards where you tried it out and you're like, I want to do that mostly. Like I want to do that, focus on this, like combat or questing or anything?
Very quickly, I realized that what I wanted to do in the game was the very first time I did this, it was when I was farming my rune Simtar from the Zami warriors.
Yeah.
And I had to kill like 40 of them in order to get it. And I realized that like, I like this gameplay loop. And that's what, my chat told me that's what most of RuneScape is killing mobs a lot of times and trying to get items that you want. And I loved that concept from classic WoW with an SGC on Warrior, where you have to do BRD like 300 times to try to get your SGC chess piece. And I thought that was something that I would love to do. And RuneScape has a lot of that.
So do you think that the gameplay loop of like trying to get like pre-bis in WoW kind of translates over to gear progression in the sense of like drop rates and all that? Absolutely.
And pre-bis is my favorite part. Farming pre-bis is my favorite part of classic WoW.
Yeah, it's a fun grind as long as it goes slightly smoothly, and you're not on a time limit or something, because that's where it gets tricky for BRD stuff. That was my nightmare when we did OnlyFans, is BRD, trying to get drops from that, having the worst RNG like a day before the raid. But
yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, you can go a lot of runs without getting your items in WoW, but I do like that dungeons don't have lockouts once you're 60, so you can kind of spam them.
Yeah, true.
Whereas the raids are a different story. You do get locked.
Yeah, that sucks. I was surprised when I learned about that when I first tried WoW, when I was playing Wrath Classic. It was like, what do you mean we can't go back in? Because I mean, you've seen it over here. It's like, if you want to spam that shit, you could spam it all day, every day, until you get what you want. Like, you might have the worst RNG, but you could just get back in there. It was a very weird experience seeing that for the first time. One thing I wanted to ask, because I'm sure you've seen this, you may have even said it, but it is like the biggest point that players make. So I don't even know if they're WoW players or if this is just something that like RuneScape players are insisting and parroting because they heard it once. But the progression matters statement of Old School is like the biggest thing that's talked about when it's like, oh, why did WoW players start here? Or why did they stay here? Because their progression matters here, sort of thing. And I think it was one of those things where I agreed with at first when I first heard it, but then I started hearing it so much that I started to question it, and I have no idea if it's even a real point anymore. So I'm curious what you think, if it does actually apply, and if it is something that you've noticed in terms of progression on Old School versus the progression you experience in like a seasonal kind of gameplay loop that you've gone through so many times.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that Old School RuneScape has mastered horizontal progression.
Yeah.
And the way that they did that is they have certain weapons that are good versus certain bosses, which is called type damage in like MMO game design, if you will.
Yeah.
So you have your Scorching Bow, which you're going to use for Yama, or for demons rather. I don't think you use Scorching Bow in Yama, sorry. But you have type damage. So for instance, a Scorching Bow will be best on Kirill, and then you will have T-Bow, which is best for a lot of other things. And then occasionally like the Bofa will be good for stuff. Then you have like Venator Bow, which is good for multi-slayer farming. And so I have like 12 different bows written down that I need.
Yeah.
To have BIS in Old School RuneScape. And that's what true horizontal progression is there is no one BIS fits all. Right. You need all the items in the game because they all have a niche usage where you will use them at some point. One of those 12 bows will be BIS in a certain situation that you will encounter in the game.
Definitely. Yeah. So would you say that you're much happier with the way that progression works in Old School, given that like, all the weaknesses and the combat triangle and all that?
Yes, I would actually say that that's a flaw in an MMO, is to have a one BIS fits all type of system, and vertical progression I'm not a huge fan of anymore.
Yeah.
So I much prefer Old School RuneScape, horizontal progression with multiple items that are BIS for unique situations.
Definitely. It's also one of the things I've noticed. I remember when recent Varlamore bosses had come out, you were still seeing players look at like Elite Void, and to see people going and putting on gear that was in the game 8 years ago to be reliable was like a big eye opener for me. The gear that they make is actually useful and stays useful. I don't know if another game can do something like that where, they don't completely like power creep an item, just burn it into the ground, like so that you never see it again. You might as well just destroy it or put it away in a collection somewhere. It was very interesting seeing that recently.
It's a way of respecting the player's time too. Like if you're going to spend, RuneScape, it takes a lot of hours to grind out a full set of gear.
Definitely.
A lot of kills, a lot of hours. And imagine one day you just log into the game and you're like, that gear's useless. That 200, 300 hours that you spent grinding that ancestral gear from Cox is useless now.
Yeah,
people
that would be brutal.
Rioting.
Yeah, they would. They absolutely would. I feel like Jagex is like sweating bullets every time they propose something that could possibly become a best in slot or like close to it. They're like, they have to tiptoe around it and make sure everyone's like agreeing to it and polls and everything, because it does matter. Like they've done such a good job at making sure they don't do that to gear. Like they do respect your time. So is that something that you would say, like Old School has respected your time and will respect other players' time?
Yes, absolutely. It is a lot of grinding, but you only have to do it once. And that's kind of what keeps me going, is knowing that, once I get it on my Iron Man, I don't have to get it again. And I love that gameplay loop.
100%. Very satisfying. Yeah, you were grinding for really high-end gear very fast. Like I definitely saw your progression just on to the next one immediately, into those longer grinds, like CG grinds. And what did you go to CG right after Fire Cape? Like, was that your next big goal? Like, you were setting goals?
Yeah, it was pretty much Fire Cape CG.
Yeah.
Fire Cape, Song of the Elves, rush into CG. I was actually the main reason I did that, I was tired of being broke in the game as an Iron Man.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, CG gives you a bunch of money. So I was like, okay, perfect. I'll never be broke again. So I just rushed CG because I wanted the Bofa anyway. That was like a big goal of mine. And then I just didn't want to be broke anymore. So I was like, get me in the gauntlet.
Yeah. Have you found that setting goals like that has made the gameplay kind of like seamless for you? Like is that sort of how you enjoy playing?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely, you need to do like little brain tricks on yourself in RuneScape so that you don't burn out, because it's heavy grinds. So you can do that by like cycling a little bit of each thing each day, changing up what you're farming each day. Or you can just set a short-term goal instead of looking at like a really long-term goal.
Yeah.
So that you don't get that kind of like, you don't get overwhelmed, and you could just focus on something that you can achieve in like a week or two at a time. And that's what I like doing.
Definitely. I think it's important to set a goal for your account or just your time playing. But sometimes I think players overwhelm themselves because they set a goal that's there's so many steps in between that it seems overwhelming, and it's super easy to like lose motivation. Like if you log in for the first time and you hear about an Infernal Cape and you're like, I'm going to get an Infernal Cape. It's like, all right, but you got to get other things first. Like you got to focus on a few other items before you commit to that. So I think I think the route that you chose, and also the other WoW players chose, has been super effective. I think it's a huge reason that a lot of you guys stuck around and still had fun playing for so long. Now that you're going into like endgame content, you're seeing the raids, and do you have like a quest cape already?
Yes, I have quest cape.
You have quest cape. Okay. So given that you've seen so much of the game now, what would you say that your favorite part of the game is? Like when you get to grind out an activity for a full stream or something, like what do you most look forward to that day being? Like if you're just like doing Slayer or you're going into raids with the boys, like what excites you the most? Like what do you look forward to the most?
To be honest, it's the same thing I enjoyed in WoW, which is doing raids with friends.
Hell yeah. Yeah.
TOA with the boys, Cox with the boys. We haven't gotten too much into TOB yet, that's something I'm looking forward to, is being able to kind of rotate the raids with my friends and just kind of get to experience that with them, see everyone else's progression, see their hard work they put into their characters to make their characters stronger so that we can do harder raids. And it's a long journey. You're not just gonna, on Iron Man, you're not just gonna like randomly, do a 150 TOA and then go to a 500 the next week. It just doesn't happen. You don't have the gear or the skill for it. It takes a long time to build up to that. And so that's something I'm looking forward to, is us just getting stronger and being able to push harder difficulties in TOA as time goes on. And to second that, one thing that WoW doesn't have is solo challenges in this game. The delve. Like I'm looking forward to doing the delve and seeing how deep I can push in the delve. Whenever I finally get a synapse, which I've done 2 tormented demons tasks and I haven't gotten a synapse yet. So I just have to keep on going, right, until I get one.
Right.
And I really love pushing myself. So far, my favorite thing I've done is 350 difficulty TOA solo. where I got the Masori backpack upgrade, and
That's
having
huge.
little transmog upgrades like that are things that you can visually show others, like your accomplishment in the game. And an MMO is just a trophy at the end of the day, and we all want to show people our trophy, what we've done.
Yeah.
And so having things like that, titles and capes and transmog kits in the game, show people how much work you've put into that account. And I really, really love that. I love the little status symbol of showing how I've done a 350 TOA. That was really, really fun to me.
Yeah, they've done such a good job at putting things like that in the game. Like Oath Plate, I think, is some of the sickest. Like the the cosmetic version of Oath Plate. I don't know why I can't think of the name right now. The white version of it. I'm sure you've seen it, but it is like the sickest armor.
I call it the Stormtrooper armor.
Yeah, the Stormtrooper armor. Yeah, dude, exactly. Getting to wear that, like, I want to go for that one day. Like, I've never been super into PVM, but just seeing my friends have it, it makes me want to get into it really hard. Like just to get that because of how cool it looks. So like, I'm like, oh man, I want to walk around in that. So they've done a great job at setting these little challenges. Just like you said, it's a trophy just to walk around in, and especially like the combat achievements and getting a Zuck helm. Like those dudes are psychos. Like that's crazy. But when you see someone who's walking around with it, you're like, all right, that guy knows how to. He understands how ticks work in this game. That's very nice of him. That's cool. Which, by the way, do you remember like how you felt about like when you learned about how game ticks work and realized like the every 0.6 seconds is when the game has a heartbeat essentially? Like, do you remember what your initial impressions of that were? Like how that made you feel like you were about to dive into a game that is operating on a system like that?
Well, in WoW we call it a global. And RuneScape they call it a tick, but definitely the tick system is more unique than a global cooldown. I think that it took a bit for me to understand that, and I just recently, like a couple months in, it took me a while to understand what one tick prayer flicking was, where you're double clicking in every 0.6 seconds, you're clicking twice to have unlimited prayer.
Yep.
And so that was a wild concept for me to understand at first. So that was like my first experience truly understanding what the tick system is. And then you get into like the true tile where you're in WoW. I'm used to actually being where my character is visually in the game. And that is not, you are playing. It's like playing with lag almost in WoW, where like your character is actually slightly ahead of where he is in the game. And that's always what RuneScape is like. So you're actually looking at where your true tile is, not where your character is. In fact, you could turn your character off and play RuneScape.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, some people PK with their character not there. Like you don't need it. It's really, really goofy. But yeah, true tile, that is like the epitome of look at the inside of this game. Like look and see what you're actually doing, and it is mind blowing every time. Just how it works. I think one of my favorite things I had ever covered in a video essay. I made a video essay a long time ago about. I think it was called like the RuneLite plugin that changed RuneScape forever, or something like that. Essentially just talking about the game evolving into people putting ground markers everywhere for, helping them stand in the right square at certain times, and then going into the true tile because the game is constantly lying to you. It was like when I first dove into the whole movement aspect of the game, it made me realize just how complicated things can become and how large the learning curve is, that I'm sure you would have not even believed somebody if they tried to explain it to you when you've tried the game out for the first time 12 something years ago for a second. Like none of that was thought about by any player ever. And now that is how everyone sees it essentially. Like anyone who's doing high level content has to see the game that way.
It takes a long time before you can respect when someone says Port Khazard did 54 Awakened Leviathans in one individual.
Yeah. Knowing that, the context behind it, you're just like, what are you talking about? Like, that dude's a psycho. That guy's crazy. But it just goes to show, like, if you learn the system that well enough and your brain can stay calm under pressure like that. It's amazing what players can do understanding that sort of system. So I'm like, are you liking learning that system? Because I'm sure you still have some gripes with it.
I absolutely love that RuneScape has this type of system. And not only can you get a Zuck helm, but you can impose personal challenges on yourself that are harder than getting a Zuck helm. This game allows you the freedom as a gamer, content creator, whatever, to do that. And World of Warcraft doesn't have as many options to do that once you've done everything.
Right.
I mean, you can maybe take people out of the raid and just keep taking people out of the raid, but even then you can only do it once per week.
Yeah. Why would you say, I mean, all right, let's pretend again, Twitch audience growth not in the question. Why would you say that you're still here playing? Do you have a bunch of goals in mind, or like is it more of like you enjoy this sense of achievement?
I would say I'm still playing RuneScape because I don't think that there's another better MMO out there right now.
I would agree. I would agree 100%.
Like the options are pretty limited. I will be trying Classic Plus when it comes out, but I really like the amount of content. As a person who plays 8 to 12 hours a day, this game provides 3 years of content at the rate that I'm playing it, which is 10 years of content for a person who plays, a couple hours a day.
Right.
It is an extremely challenging game, and it's very rewarding. Like when do you see grown men jumping up and down and screaming in excitement in real life?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
this happens every time somebody gets a pet. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
or
it does.
Or a Tebow or something like that. Something extremely rare because they understand how rare it is what they just got.
Yeah,
it is heavy grinds, but it brings immense joy when you're finished with that grind.
100%. I don't know if you remember when we were talking with Foe in the hotel in Texas, but just him being like a prime example of how much you can get out of this game playing it 8 to 10 hours a day and just making new challenges for year after year after year. I mean, he was one of the first ones to even do an Iron Man. He was doing an Iron Man before Iron Man was Iron Man, but
right.
It just goes to show, like, you guys finding this game this year, like there's so much to try and to figure out and just to experience. Like, I'm sure you or other WoW guys or all of you will come up with your own ideas at some point of just how to challenge yourself that no one's come up with before, just coming in with a fresh brain to this game and how quickly you guys are all picking it up. I'm sure you guys are going to start approaching the game different and see like all these different avenues you can start to take that no one's really taken yet, because you guys have all of the knowledge of another MMO deeper than other creators have. I'm just waiting for it. I'm like, once you guys are through with your first real playthrough, to see what you guys come up with and how you kind of move your journey along if you're still playing, which do you see yourself continuing playing OSRS over the next year and so on?
Yeah, I definitely see myself going for the Zuck helm,
Really?
long-term goal. I definitely see myself going for that. And I definitely see myself trying all new content that RuneScape puts into the game. I think I'm a lifetime RuneScape subscriber now.
Hell yeah, dude.
I'm also still going to try Classic Plus when it comes out. We'll see how it is. And if it is good, I ultimately see myself being a streamer of both games and primarily playing the one that puts out, new content.
Oh, absolutely. But also on that topic, with these seasonal game modes, I'm pretty sure Gridmaster is probably the first like seasonal game mode you've been around for, right?
Yes.
What are your thoughts on stuff like that? Since, this is the first real seasonal game mode that's not Dead Man mode or leagues, but it's like the same vibe. So what are your thoughts on things like that? So
I personally opted out of even trying Gridmaster because I feel like it would have been wasting XP on my main. I I am so invested in my main character right now that, doing anything that's not playing him is like it's not even a thought. Like, it's not even something I would even consider right now, is doing anything other than just playing this account.
I get that. I get that completely.
However, when I get to a point where I feel like I've played most of the game, I've killed every boss, and all there is left to do is, just get the drops I'm missing, then I might be looking to spice it up and try the next league.
Yeah, definitely. That's so interesting. Like, that's honestly a good mindset to have about it. I know Jagex themselves, they kind of put their hope in that players that are either returning or like trying the game for the first time, or like maybe they're just super casual, will end up being able to approach the content that would have taken them way too long or they were too intimidated about. But since you're getting a grip on this game faster than most human beings, I would say, it would make sense that you don't want to like go in and do all of that for a league or a gridmaster or something and just keep on your momentum and stuff. It definitely makes more sense. But I was actually just talking to somebody in game, like typing to him at the U trees on Gridmaster, and he said that he would never play a normal account. He only logs on for seasonal game modes because he just can't deal with the long grinds and stuff, because he's, it's a lot of hours. It's a long grind. So it's just so interesting, like the different genres of players that you see come around for seasonal game modes and who plays, who doesn't, sort of thing.
Yeah, I feel like the seasonal game modes are really good for a couple reasons. It's good for like long-term players that maybe running out of things to do. It's great for new players who want to see what Endgame is like before they invest thousands of hours into a RuneScape character. And it's also good for people who don't have time to play a regular account that want to just blast and have fun for a few days or a few weeks.
Yeah, 100%. It definitely serves a good purpose for a lot of people. So I'm happy that they're experimenting with more things than just leagues.
Did you play Gridmaster? Did you like it?
Oh yeah, I'm playing it right now. I actually just started yesterday and I'm at like 1400 total level right now. It's just like,
wow.
Dude, it's just like, oh, it's just dopamine. It's just rushes and rushes of dopamine, seeing numbers go up way too fast. And I think Foe posted on Twitter that he completed Gridmaster, like the entire thing, in like 10 or 11 hours or something like that, which is ridiculous. And it's just fun. It's just fun to just sit back and do ridiculous things that, you'll never even dream about doing on the main game. Because I mean, I've played the main game so long, I'm going to take every opportunity to see giant numbers like this whenever I can. Hopefully, whenever they do the next league or something, you'll be in that position to be like, all right, let's see what kind of ruckus this is. Like, ready to experience it. It'll be sick. I'm sure a lot of people like watching you play one of those for the first time. But all that being said, I guess the last big question, very important, probably the most important question of this whole thing. What would you rate Old School RuneScape out of 10?
So I actually have a good answer for this because I just answered it on my stream the other day.
Perfect.
I would rate Old School RuneScape a 10 out of 10 game if you customize it to the way you enjoy playing it.
Interesting. Like, are you talking with like RuneLite plugins and setting it up to be like comfortable, or?
Yes, and it offers every possible game mode you could imagine. If you are an Ultimate Iron Man enjoyer, they have that. If you're a hardcore player, they have that. If you like PvP, you can play a main. If you like playing the auction house, you can play a main. If you like playing two characters at the same time, you can hit the crab on one account while you're questing on one monitor. There are so many ways to play this game. And if you find the sweet spot of what works for you, I think you can make RuneScape a 10 out of 10 game just based on how you enjoy playing it. You have to find the way that you enjoy RuneScape the most, and it can be the best game you've ever played.
God damn, brother. You cooked that answer. Oh, what the hell? There's not going to be a better answer than that. That's a very good perspective, though. That is true. That is like around the same ballpark that I tell people. It's like I always see people coming into like my friends chat and stuff and asking like, oh, should I play an Iron Man? Should I play a main? Like, I don't know if I'm really enjoying this anymore. It's like, dude, the sky is the limit. Like, you find what you enjoy best. You try different paths to take. Like, just play the way you want to play. Don't worry about how anyone else is playing. Just find your comfort zone, find what makes you happy, and play that way, because we're lucky enough to like have a game that lets you play the way you want to play. So
yep.
yeah.
And I love the way that you said that. I wish more people in the RuneScape community had that same answer. And something I'm trying to do on my stream is be more positive and bring awareness to the fact that there are a lot of purists that play the game that shame others for not playing the game the way that they do. And this is an ever-growing problem in the MMO communities that I would like to bring awareness to, and just let people play the way they want to play and respect them. And hopefully one day we can, build a more positive community by just bringing awareness to that.
100%. It's so funny. I'm sure you've had somebody, or even you yourself have told somebody in like the situation of going to the gym and having somebody who's like just starting out, kind of like being intimidated, and they're looking at somebody else and being like, that's insane. Like, there's no way I could do that. And then you kind of have to get into that mindset of like, you can't look at someone else's progress. You can't look at anyone else's way of doing it. Like, you have yourself and you have your own journey, your own progress, your own pace. It's the same thing with RuneScape. It was a very important thing to learn very fast, to just focus on how you enjoy playing, because if you're enjoying playing, then whoever else you're playing with or whatever community you're a part of, it's going to be a lot more positive.
I totally agree, man. And there's nothing wrong with the way that you play, and just know that like when people make fun of you, just know that they're mad that you're enjoying the game more than they are.
So true. I have way more fun on them on free to play worlds than they'll ever have on members worlds. I'll tell you that right now. And my house is way cooler. They'll never have a house as cool as mine unless they copy it. It's awesome. Well, hell yeah, dude. Thank you so much for we've been talking for like almost an hour, so I appreciate you taking so much time out to talk with me. It's turned into like a podcast rather than an interview, but it was awesome. I really appreciate that.
No worries. I love talking about this stuff. It's so much fun. Hell
yeah, man. I'm so fucking happy for you for getting this audience and finding enjoyment in these grinds. Like, from someone who's been in the RuneScape community for so long and have seen so many different eras of like content creation, and so many times, people have said, oh, this is the golden age of old school. It turns out we've had multiple golden ages, and this is probably my favorite one of all these guys coming here, especially the guys who are sticking around and showing everybody this amazing progress. It's so fun to watch. So I'm glad that you're enjoying it as much as you are, and I hope it brings more and more growth, because you deserve it, dude. This is badass. I'm so glad you guys are over here.
Me too, buddy. It's so cool to be able to come into 20 years of a progressed MMO for the first time, and be able to show somebody that first time playthrough that is just coming to the game now.
Yeah, you guys got a long journey ahead. Very long and awesome journey that people are gonna pay money to watch.
Yes, sir.
A huge thank you once again to Sardaco for sitting down and taking the time to talk with me. All of his links are down below, so make sure you check out his YouTube and his Twitch. Check out those video essays I mentioned. He's live on YouTube and Twitch, so you'll see him live. He's live way too often. I don't know what he's doing. Go support him. Go say hello. The upcoming guest is an absolute gamer. Probably one of the most talented classic WoW players there's ever been. An absolute beast. He has hit the ground running when it comes to trying old school RuneScape, progressing at an insane pace. We talked about a ton of stuff. I'm super excited for you guys to hear it, so I'll see you guys tomorrow when we're talking with Ampy.